Do I hear any additions, subtractions, corrections, or motion to accept the board meeting minutes?
I make a motion to accept.
I second.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
They look good, thank you, Deb.
Good job, Dale. Okay. We're going to move on to Linda's presentation. So Linda, you got the floor.
Okay, I did hand out both the packet with outreach, transportation, et cetera reports, and then mine separately because I forgot to include it, so. And there's 2 sheets there. I actually have another handout I'll pass out in a minute. Just in terms of recapping a little bit the month of March, things are, it's almost spring and people are coming out again and the center is open for business, so we're hoping that the numbers reflect that a bit better than they might have the last couple of months. The weekly and or monthly regular activities are, our yoga has actually done quite well. And in fact, I'm going to add a 3rd day for yoga on Friday, starting in May. That's just become popular. We think our pickleball, for instance, is really, I've had people inquire lately as well, so hopefully some newcomers. I'd had a men's breakfast here in March at the senior center, which went well, and you'll just notice there were 11. I actually think there might have been a few more, but that's what I had in the system. And by this time I forget. But, and we had 1 cafe talk, some entertainment in March. We did the Irish film for St. Patrick's Day. Not the usual luncheon celebration, but it sort of fit the bill. And then I also had a guitarist come with some Irish stories and songs, and that was a cafe talk just because it was a Thursday. And I try to stay away from lunch on Thursdays, but still, it was nice. And next year, hopefully, we'll get into maybe some larger entertainment. I was sort of, March sneaks up on me, and I now realize how important St. Patrick's Day is around here. So, not that I don't enjoy it too. The Interact Club at the high school, which is actually a young Rotarian or Rotary-sponsored student extracurricular club group, they've been in touch with me really over the course of the year, but trying to do something with us. So they had come in the end of March, 2 Thursday nights ago, I guess, to do a dinner. They brought dinner, and they brought games galore, and about 12 or 13 kids with them. And honest to God, it was fabulous. And as with so many things, when you do them the first time, and especially it was a late hour, not our usual, it started at 4 o'clock, so just different for people sometimes to think they want to come out. But it was at 4 to 5:30, 6 o'clock about. But the games were great. The kids split up. The audience that was here with them, the number of seniors, split up as well, and they did a variety of games, and everybody had a great time. We had music. We had Pandora mixes going.
Nice.
It was very good. So we hope that they will do something else. And in fact, they are scheduled to come in May for some tech support for us. But in addition, we'd like to do more of the social, because it was really, the kids were fabulous. Very mature, in fact. Also, we have a Matter of Balance, the evidence-based 8-week program that just reinforces some of the topics or areas of concern when it comes to maintaining balance or fear of falling.
How many are in it?
15. We actually have to cut it off at 15, and there is a wait list, so we are trying to schedule a second 8-week session to accommodate the others. There's always a little bit of fall-off, and with the evidence-based, you do get a certificate recognition at the end, and so you have to make at least 6 of the 8, so sometimes that ends up being hard. So I think someone's already missed 2. We have the garden club as well this past month. It was a little lighter because it had actually been rescheduled from February when we had snow, and then just trying to get the word out to everybody was harder. We also, I will just mention, yesterday, in fact, had another intergenerational program which was initiated by someone from the 12 Women Care organization, and they did a tea over, we used the Maritime Center, which was nice. I hadn't used it that early before, so it was cold.
Good.
Not inside, but outside. But it was a lovely spot. They did very similarly, the games, some tea, snacks. They had a collection of elementary school kids that came and interacted with the seniors at various tables and various games. So it was just a great way to spend, honestly, 2 hours. It was nice of them. They did a great job. Lastly, not lastly, but I will mention, so we had another men's breakfast schedule, which of course we do the first Monday of every month. And I've been alternating a little bit. We've been using Widows Walk quite a bit. But some of the guys like it here, some of the guys like it at Widows Walk, so we just try to do a little of both. We do charge them, not we, for Widows Walk, they have to pay more substantially, I guess, really.
How much do they have to pay at Widows Walk?
$8. And here we just ask for a $3 donation for whatever we might prepare. So there was a mishap, which was not something that we had neglected to do, but it turned out that it wasn't open at the time. So someone was supposed to call me because something had come up and had to cancel, but they forgot to call. So, it happens. So I bring this up, and this will come up again a little bit when I talk, but I heard, I guess I was told, that there was some activity about it on Facebook, and unfortunately, it was really unpleasant. Very unpleasant, and these are, it's nobody that was there or know how we interacted with the 18 or so men who were there, and how I would have taken care of them if in fact they'd been interested in that. So we could have sort of punted and done a little something else, but in the end it was more or less agreed that we would just reschedule. And I spent the whole day saying how good-natured men are, because they really were. But in the end, then, this was an upsetting series of comments from people who actually have no idea what happened. So it's unfortunate. It just does underscore the positive, but then also the negative benefits of the social media. So I hadn't been involved in it, but now I guess I will pay attention a little bit more, and I hesitate to make any comments because it wasn't right in the first place. So I just mention it to you because, if people do hear and can advocate that, naturally give us a call if they would like an explanation. We'd be happy to give it. And it doesn't, I can't even say it's ever happened before, but it does happen. Sometimes there is a mishap, as I was trying to reschedule for this coming Monday and sent out a voice broadcast, as you've all received, and I thought obviously I just assumed it went because it seemed fine. And then I left for the day, and when I came back in today, it hadn't gone. So those are the little things that can happen, so I just mentioned it. So now I'm not sure if I can reschedule because I may not have enough time to do it by Monday, but just to mention that. Legislative breakfast, Friday morning, April 24th, at the Maritime Center as well. So just thinking, I had tried to do that, also at Widows Walk, slight cost to the breakfast, but of course it was also in February and then in March, early March, so we were still having weather issues. So I will get something into the Mariner next week. I certainly had things in the Mariner prior. Still wasn't really getting a response, but it is Representative Cantwell. It is April 24th.
Will that be here at the senior center or Widows Walk?
It will be at the Maritime Center.
The Maritime Center, so that will be catered, is it?
9 a.m. It won't be a full breakfast, just muffins and coffee, catered by us.
Yeah, so that will come out of our program.
Yes.
Donations
It's
budget.
a cafe talk, but just in a different venue. But, so we have both offices coming, and I actually did call Senator Headland's office. In the event he doesn't come, there should be more, one of his reps would come here every other month. I think it's the third Thursday in the morning, and we could have more opportunity for interaction with that office if we wanted, and all of them really. Rep. Cantwell is here on the fourth Friday every month, if anyone wants to come in and talk to him. So in this case, it's a little bit about advocating for our formula grant, which we get annually, but the legislature votes on it, votes for the amount per elder that we receive. So, during sort of 5 years ago, it was almost down to $6. Maybe they advocated well enough, got it up to $7. It's been $8 for the last couple of years, and they actually like to see it increased to $9 per elder. So this is our supplemental funding to the municipal budget, of course, coming from the state. So it would be nice, and that's what they'll talk about in any other things that they do work on or advocate for in terms of, especially for us, for the older adult population in the state and locally.
Does that have to be a bill to increase it? I mean, does somebody have to write it up and they just decide, bring it up and say, okay?
You know, it's a standard vote every year,
Oh.
so I don't know that it has to be a new bill, but it is
Okay.
voted on every year. I also, last minute, so I'm mentioning it, we're going to schedule, not, let's see, 2 weeks from now, I guess, during the school vacation week, I have a teacher who is an art teacher, artist, and wants to do a paint night. So it's going to be a light paint night, because we'll have to do it here. Normally, I guess these paint nights, you're eating and drinking while you're painting. So we'll have some tea and snacks while we paint. But she takes you through a single painting, step by step, so everybody feels like an artist, which is great. So that will be Tuesday, April 24th. Tuesday, April 21st here in the evening, more or less, probably maybe 5 or 6 o'clock at night. So look for that if you're
Paint night
interested.
would be 4 o'clock?
Maybe, I haven't quite set the time, so if anyone has any recommendations. I've been in discussions, and actually this week, a representative from Liturgical Publications spent a few days with us. In fact, we were just getting used to her, and now she's gone. So, she's from Connecticut. They come, they put them up somewhere. In fact, it was a 5, I think she was in Hull, staying. Anyway, she's been contacting businesses in the community to look for more advertising for the newsletter so that we can expand it. And of course, expanding it is twofold. Expanding it is Liturgical agreeing to either print more pages for us or do it monthly. But of course, expanding it for us also means we pay a significant amount of money to mail it at this point. So that would mean another month of a mailing cost, which we do take out of the formula grant right now, so we certainly, I'm
What
sure
is it a month? to
could
mail?
find the money, but
What is it a month to mail? Approximately.
I know,
Any idea?
at least 300 or 400, 500, something.
Yeah, it should be, yeah. I would say.
I thought we,
300,
I thought we
I think.
discussed possibly taking it out of the, if we went forward with it as a monthly publication, that we possibly maybe take that extra postage cost out of, give some donations. It sounds like, you know, it's a costly figure.
Mhm.
I don't know how that would affect your formula grant budget.
Right, well, it wouldn't, but.
Oh, well, whatever.
That would be separate. We did say that. Anyway, that's just to mention that that would just be an issue to know. We made a new hire, I'm happy also to say about that. So that's been a process, a couple of months, and it was a tough one. It was a tough decision. I had multiple great candidates. So it was a tough choice, but it was collective, and her name is Lisa Thornton. She actually started Monday, which was nice of her to start immediately. She'll be working, for the most part, 5 days a week with some variation in hours and time. She's only 25 hours, so she can spread that out over the 5 days. But it is good to have her.
What's her title? Like
Activities and
director?
volunteer coordinator. Activities and volunteer coordinator.
Good.
So, yes, that will be great. We'll be back on that in no time. So, in addition, I don't want to hold up the floor too much, but a couple of things, of course, came up. I'm sure you see my agenda. Outreach and transportation reports, which you have in your packet. So just not to forget those. I think I might not have to do that. Can I grab that? Right, that would be good.
Oh, here.
They're, of course, fairly
Oh,
self-explanatory. Laura's report gives you, of course, her numbers. The unduplicated being the number of people she is serving, seeing, assisting, and then the duplicated is the instances of her meeting and/or assisting with those clients. On the back of hers, I did think I'd mention, it would be worth mentioning, the community network meeting. This has evolved. We talked about meeting with the clergy in the past and trying to find ways for them to help with funds that they may have available for needs in the community that they might not be aware of that we might hear about, and that is in fact true. But more than that, there's even other organizations, and we talked about it here, I believe, the Community Christmas. So the network is growing, and so then they did have an evening meeting trying to bring more of these sort of stakeholders in. I couldn't make it, just, it was a conflict in an evening, but Laura went. And since then, in fact, it's been sort of an email network for providing when someone does have a need for a client or a family or something that comes to their attention through whatever means, then it goes out to the community here, and someone responds, or many people respond. So it's actually already working and been great, so that will continue.
Does its impact on community service for high school kids?
Yes. Yes.
I think, obviously, for you to read through all the meeting times and everything is, tedious and not essential for us, because we've got this in front of us, but for the TV audience, Laura, our town social worker, her days are just filled with meetings. We can't go through all her meetings, but she's a busy lady, with all these meetings. She lists them for our benefit, so.
Yes, as a matter of fact, that is a big part of her job, is meeting with
Right.
different stakeholders in the community. Here's my notes, I did have them as well. In addition, for us, she facilitates it's now called the Scituate Hoarding Response Team. So that's a monthly meeting with, again, various stakeholders who are all municipal managers, the fire chief, deputy fire chief, Department of Public Health, animal control officer, building, myself. So we do think, and it's already evolved, but what we'd like to do with that is likely split the efforts a little bit between the formal response plan. They're trying to figure out how to respond when someone knows that there's some issue with a client or a resident in the community. That's one thing, but the other that we could be more involved in, I think, is the education for the community, how to recognize it, how to intervene if necessary, and some ideas there. Just knowing what it is and understanding it a little bit better is where I think we might have a role. Dog therapy program, that's sort of a happy thing, and it's increased a bit. She did have some, Laura started this with another woman in town here, and then there was some publicity through the Mariner, and she's received some more clients. 5 elders are receiving visits from dog therapy teams. So if anybody knows anyone interested in having some time with the puppies, or knows of other teams that might want to get into the effort, then she's open to that as well. She'll be going out on maternity leave in May, so like the caregiver support group, she'll take a leave, and the woman from Social Elder Services is still able to conduct it monthly, but after that, we may look at trying to expand that as well.
There are basic rules about the healthy dog, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All of that.
Absolutely. They're all certified therapy
Yes,
dogs. They have to go through the training.
Oh, I'd love to have a visit from one of the dogs, but I don't think Mr. Spanky, my cat, would appreciate it.
Okay, and then we have the report from Jenny, who of course is more in-house here, seeing clients, taking calls, assisting with applications for various services. And as well, she does go out monthly to each of the housing units for an hour each. Sort of an open Q&A if somebody wants to drop in and see her or have an appointment there, that doesn't necessarily come up.
May I ask a question?
Mhm, of course.
I'm just looking, making home visits of home, the friendly visitor, is that a possibility in the future?
It is. They definitely have been talking about that, and just it's on the list, I guess, just maybe not quite.
Yeah, we had discussed that at a previous board meeting, and that was when you were in Florida, Audrey.
No, I know, but we haven't moved on it.
Right.
Oh,
Right,
talking
right,
about it.
right.
I'm just asking. what
No,
the
no, I
progress
know,
is.
so that was that's a good point. Are we gonna move on it,
I didn't mean to interrupt.
It is on the list, it's just not risen yet. Transportation. Numbers much better, 571 total rides coordinated through here. And as Q notes, their safety is always our main concern. So with the snow, with the width of the roads for the vans, we did more canceling than even it might have looked like we needed to, but the safety between access and egress to the homes and whatnot. And that comes up too, it's come up recently, and it is something I think we need to look at policy. We do have a policy, but it's just a fairly stringent, straightforward curb-to-curb policy. That's our driver's policy, that's how they're trained. They're not trained beyond that necessarily. And so we do have some clients that we really are wondering if we can continue to serve because of their getting in and out of the home, and our drivers really shouldn't and aren't trained to get all the way up to the door, being the ones who try to extract them from the home, whether it's a wheelchair or not. They can operate the lift, of course, in the van, but the rest isn't quite their job. So that's something that's come up, and we're dealing with that, but I think we need some broader policy so that it just is clear everywhere.
Is that a policy that most communities have?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is, that's how they're mostly trained, some leave it a little loose. We did find one that didn't do curb to curb, a little more open, but maybe we have to.
But it's transportation, it's not
Right.
hand-holding someone from the couch to the door,
Yeah.
to closing up the house, to getting them into the van.
Safely from the door to the van.
Right.
Particularly in
Right.
bad weather, that can
Right.
be so sensitive.
So the winter really emphasized that, but even still, and sometimes the aide or the spouse, let's say, that may be trying to help, is not really
Right.
that capable of doing that, I think that's. So then it becomes, really, they can't, unless they have an aide, and it has to be an adequate aide to handle the other person.
Well, for those people that, like Audrey, and I've mentioned many times in the past that when I lived in Boston and I had had many surgeries on my legs and feet, so I took the ride, and I couldn't have kept my job without that. But I just bring that up once again because their policy, and they're dealing with very disabled people, is door to door. And I mean, they certainly will help the person with the wheelchair lift and help the person with the crutches, etc., get down out of the van, but that's their policy. And as far as I know, because I know someone in Boston who still uses the ride, that's their policy, door to door. Out of the van to the door. But they won't help,
They don't bring them to the door.
No, because.
Their own door.
Right, because it's liability, the liability issues
Exactly.
incurred.
Right. So,
The state doesn't want any more lawsuits than they have to deal with already,
Except it does limit sometimes, sure, to the amount of
It
people
does.
that can use it.
right,
Yeah.
and so, of course, that's a concern for them.
That was a point I was gonna make, what you said. I just recently was aware of an issue with someone who does use the van for transportation to come to Meals on Wheels.
Okay.
But needed assistance to get on the van and assistance to get off when she came to Meals on Wheels. And it kind of hit home to me because I'm thinking, without someone going the extra step, this woman is staying in her apartment,
Never
not
getting
getting
out.
out for Meals on Wheels,
Isolated.
not getting a hot meal, and not socializing. So I don't know what the answer is, but I'm wondering if that's an area where maybe if there are volunteers, a volunteer could perhaps provide some assistance. But I don't know what the regulations are as far as having volunteers on a van.
Well, we used to have, I'm not sure, while I've been on the board, Q would try to recruit volunteers to be on the van.
Well,
I don't know what's happened to,
Shopping.
right, exactly, to
Shopping.
help them, take them into Trader Joe's or Shaw's, or, I don't know what her,
What about doctor's appointments? Actually being on a board at South Shore Elder Services, I heard a story on Tuesday in which they provided the transportation to get the person to the doctor's office, a needy visit. But the person is sitting on the van, could not exit the van to get into the doctor's office, so therefore were taken back home. Did not get to the doctor, so the doctor's office is calling South Shore Elder Services and they had to turn around because of the liability issue and find services through an agency that provides aids.
Right.
And that aide then rode with the person in the van to the doctor's office. I mean, look how complicated life has become for some people.
Well,
A call to
But
the
it's not,
office would
it
have
can't be the
brought
doctor.
out
Exactly.
to-
No, but there's got to be
Somebody
one
else.
more
Yeah.
step.
You don't know why the
No.
person couldn't
And that's
get
sad.
up and go in. You know, I just think that's me.
Well, we have,
Anyway,
we
you
have
to
in the
stay
past,
focused.
maybe a little less frequently, have used volunteer drivers, especially when someone was less able to independently use the van. And so therefore it would be sort of a driver slash escort.
Yeah.
But even that requires a little bit more, I mean, the liability piece of that is, it's been questionable, so we've sort of not pursued it just until we can figure out how best to do it. So, but that's something it hasn't been in place since I've been here, so the volunteer, that might be a possibility. That's
Yeah,
not a
in
bad idea.
fact, I could even bring in old agendas where the Hughes report had like 3 escort volunteers. But again, I have no idea what the liability issues were for that
Right,
escort.
it might have been
But she
discouraged,
used to,
maybe.
no, she used to, it was hard to get them. Because it's people that volunteer their time to sit on the van and be an escort and help the person into the doctor's office. And not a lot of people, again,
I've heard that
it's
before.
hard to find volunteers, I guess, in general, for many
Sure,
things.
well, we know we have a new recruiter coordinator, so.
Give her a job.
We're gonna have a lot more volunteers. So, segue a little bit, because I said I'd mention it too, Tuesday night's Board of Selectmen meeting had Frank Gay come and present really an already established route and proposal for a pilot public transport service in Scituate. I gave everybody, I guess, I did give everybody the map of the proposed route. I did make a,
There's a few more. Linda, I don't know, we've been through this, there's been routes established in the past.
and you know, that's funny, almost at my fingertips, or I must have pulled this out for some reason a while back, but I have a picture of the earlier proposed route, which was much larger and just got into so much more,
The thing that they have
So much
to
more
remember
cost.
is they've got to hit all of the,
well, let me mention that it was actually voted.
Yeah.
So
It's
there
already
was
been-
some
It was voted by the
discussion,
selectmen to approve this.
right,
So,
there was some discussion about the
They
routes.
forgot them at one point.
But
The one
it's a
in
pilot,
Oxford.
it's a pilot which will be in place, he seemed to think by June, Frank thought, and it's a pilot proposed for at least through the, well, hopefully it continues through the
he
summer.
talked
and-
June to September.
Yeah.
There was a brief mention of maybe adding to the route or slightly adjusting the route so that it went where it goes to the train station now, maybe all the way up to the Rotary so that it could get to some of the medical buildings.
Right.
And then back around, but
That was an issue
it's a pilot route, so it's a slightly smaller route, see how that goes, make that successful, and then obviously as the use is there, they can then justify maybe an increase in the cost that we would incur if we went bigger.
The
But-
only reason I mentioned it, they had forgotten about the senior housing in
Oh.
Scituate.
Right.
Well, they didn't forget
They're hoping
this
to-
time, but well, Dr. Price was there as well.
No, it's Scituate.
And the other thing Tricia mentioned, of course, was a lot of it was getting people to and from the center of town, of course, up to Widows Walk, if that was something that they wanted to do, and then some of the other areas around. So starting there with, as a priority, it is coming by the senior center.
Good. Great.
And the
Nice
market,
progress.
so it's actually.
And even though this is a pilot program, will there be a charge to it, Linda?
Yes. $1.
Well, the bus
Seniors.
itself, yes.
I think
Or
it's seniors
60
for 60 cents.
50 cents.
Over 65.
Seniors and students, 50 cents.
I think the neat thing about it is that it's not just going to be a senior
Right.
transportation piece. It's going to be for anyone along the route who wants to be able to get to from point A to point B. And I think he said that along the route, there would be some definite places where they would stop, but if you were here somewhere on, would that be Country Way or whatever, and you wanted to get to Lawson Tower, you stand up by the side of the road and kind of wave them down, they will stop.
Used to be part of their slogan, give us a wave.
Yeah.
You know, and- I mean,
That's
Sounds like it
great.
might be fun, yeah.
And they were talking about probably doing one loop every hour. That's what he said, so probably, he was talking about possibly running 12 hours, 8 to 8.
Yeah, a 30-minute drive, but an hour round trip, so there would be X number of
Right.
stops for a minute or two, whatever it
Yeah.
would be, so.
And a great time to do it with the summer.
Yeah. And I
They're
think-
gonna do this first, I think,
Yeah,
Sorry, Sue.
When will they add North Situate, do you know?
after this.
Well, I think
works.
it
See how
depends
the
on-
first 4 months
See how the
goes.
volume
it depends on numbers, how many you're running.
No one's riding it, it won't get added.
Right.
Okay.
And if there's sufficient demand for people who want to get to North Situate or get from North Situate.
From
to
North Situate is what I'm
somewhere else.
thinking.
Yeah,
I guess it'd be like a phase thing.
Okay.
So,
but I understand that there was some, this all came about because there was some additional grant monies available.
That was gonna be my question. I attended the meeting but didn't get there for the entire discussion, but how is this being funded?
The state,
oh, there was
Okay.
some additional grant money from the state, that's
Yeah.
right, that's
Because, I
right.
mean, Situate's not funding this at all.
not at all.
No.
This is all coming from the state to
So,
GATRA.
The
correct?
MBTA subsidized funding is part of it, but we get a certain amount budgeted to us strictly for the COA use of the vans and the transportation, but that won't be touched, so this is additional.
Right.
That's
And it
good.
is other money that they are providing
Right.
themselves to you.
Right.
Or they have received.
There's tremendous potential. I feel you can have fun and go to Hanover Mall.
Can you
That's
really?
true. In Kingston,
Yeah.
well, and it comes through, I think I might have mentioned this before, but Duxbury has it. And originally, they started out with several stops, and really, no one was there. So it went a few, maybe 6 months, and they did adjust the route down to just a couple of stops.
Good.
They were coming through anyway, which is the good news, otherwise they might have taken it out altogether.
Yeah.
The stops that are being used, then, it's either kids or other adults going to the market, and then it goes clear through to Kingston and Plymouth, who use it a great deal, so Marshfield.
And great kids and stuff.
So, again, I feel like I'm all of a sudden talking too much. I was going to launch right into having re-included, because I know I had shown these to you at another board meeting, but my goals, and just trying to address some of the needs assessment observations and recommendations, and relating those to some of the goals that you have seen and we've talked about before, but that maybe I could specifically address. So actually, I'm going to give this handout as well. I'll try to be brief with them, I guess maybe I thought I'd give that much. 1, 2, 3, 4, that way, because I didn't put those on the back, sorry.
Summary recommendations, yeah, because I don't
You
have
got this?
that. I've got that.
So that, right, the summary and recommendations that I just handed out actually came straight out of the needs assessment report. I just pulled that. So, just to look at a recap quickly of the goals that I had told you about and you agreed with, I guess, back then. Goal number 1, to provide enhanced programs and services and connect seniors to the broader Scituate community by increasing some of our partnerships. And really, thanks to Laura, for the most part, we've already started to do that. So between also working with other municipal departments, but also trying to connect with, whether it's SAMS through the emergency response we needed this winter, the clergy as well, and lots of other groups now. We already have a list of stakeholders, but that's an area too that I started that just because the board could certainly be instrumental in helping connect us as a board or us as a staff with some of what's going on in the community as well. So we hope to do more of that. Increase community awareness of services and programs. So when I get to the summary and recommendations, that's mentioned multiple times, and it is a goal already, so it is something, again, that possibly even the board would like to participate in. Goal number 3, to develop staff roles here to expand internal communication, but also really to almost cross-train and make everybody aware of the different roles each of the staff has, and help to provide as much information, as much customer service as we can to the clients. So also, you know, employee appreciation, just showing them along the way what they're doing provides to the community as well, and let them see that as much as possible. And then lastly, you'll notice just goal number 4, to assimilate the results of the report and begin to incorporate any deficiencies or recommendations that the report might have found for improvements in meeting the needs of seniors. So again, that's where we are. So that's where we are right now, and hoping and trying to plan to do that. So on the opposite page where it says needs assessment recommendations, so how can the COA plan to address, or how can we as a Council on Aging plan to address the recommendations on a priority basis? And even also, how can the board, you know, help to inform our short and long-term goals and the priorities as well as apply to the goals and objectives. So I guess I just listed a few things that are really already in the works, things that we've been talking about doing that are planned or we hope to be planned for this coming year. So caregiving, mentioned loud and clear in the needs assessment report that that's a need the community recognizes and has. So I think I did bring, I know we talked about some of the organizations we know about. Visiting Angels is one, of course, and we are looking at some of the programs that they could provide. They talk to caregivers, tips to manage dementia, compassion fatigue, caregiver burnout. These are some of the things we'd like to bring a series here. So Laura and I had already been talking about that. So that's an area, but any sort of education support and reassurance, going beyond just general outreach to caregivers, but really having education and information provided through the senior center. Aging mastery, which I had I think informed everybody, we are on for that in early fall, and we'll be planning for that in the summer. And the Aging Mastery Program, now it developed nationally, 5 senior centers in the country. Duxbury was one, we helped develop it. And then the Mass Council on Aging took it over, Tufts Health Foundation provided a grant, and now all the senior centers that could apply for the grant did great. So we're one, and we will do it. Marshfield is actually doing it right now. So we can check in and see how that's going with them. But it's a 12-week program providing 12 different topics, areas for, to benefit, reinforce successful aging, to just help with whether it's medication management or communicating with your doctor, just off the top of my head for some of them. But we can design it a little bit ourselves. We need professionals to come in and do some of the seminars, of course, that go with the program. But it's exciting, and that we would want to get at least 30 people to get involved with that, so it would be substantial. And then a Live Your Life Well, which is sort of a speed dating for activities, areas that maybe once you've stopped working, you have time to consider, whether it's volunteering, spirituality, creativeness, and you go from topic to topic, table to table. And it's actually a really nice day. It's about a 3-hour program, and that's something that was started on the Cape. We took it over. I had done it before in Duxbury, and we would do it in the summer, I hope, here. Exercise, we'll expand that. You know, we did the walking group last summer, it went well, but I'd love a volunteer to try to help develop that and maybe link it with what Mass Council on Aging also has for a moving on program, and it's a walking program. Pickleball, making other connections with other towns, tournaments. Kayaking is something the rec department would like to partner with us on, so we could provide some of those more.
Cool.
Yeah, that would be fun. Lifelong learning, so that's another area that I really had hoped to start even already. We do have, thank goodness, we have Bob Jackman, who, he's a one-man show at this point. Multiple topics, you know, multiple, back-to-back, so he's been great. And I do have a couple of people who are ready to sign on, but again, we just need to really develop the program and have a policy in place and some volunteers to help coordinate it. It would be at a cost, but a nominal cost for a 6-week series. Let's say it would be $20. And much of that would go to the instructor, but we'd probably take a little percentage off of that and start to build a kitty, and then have some money to then put back into the senior center. So it really works well. But these are some of the topics that I've known to be successful and of interest to people. But generally, it's substantial learning where they don't have to travel to UMass or Boston or have homework. It's just fun, and I know Pat's involved in what's going on now, and probably some others have taken some of those courses. But. So, and technology, computer, iPad, I think I mentioned, or maybe I did not at the last meeting. Maybe it's come up since then. We are able to install wireless, so through the town, we are getting wireless equipment. So
When will that happen?
Yeah, I was gonna ask when.
it's on order,
Okay.
so assuming we get it in the next week or two, I hope to have it in by May, because I do have these high school students, number one,
That's.
scheduled to come in to be able to do mobile device
Good.
support and training, and then we can move on to more formal classes and training, we hope. Another area I'd love to bring in fact, and that this takes volunteer help for someone who might be familiar, but Ancestry.com, maybe getting some funding to get a subscription for that, but also someone who could help support people who were interested in learning it and doing their genealogy. It's definitely something I think that's of interest to a lot of people, and if we had the resources here, and then I think it would be successful. Lastly, on that note, cultural field trips. So something else we started a little bit. When Melanie was here, we did a couple of museum trips with our van, one of our drivers, who's happy to do it, knows his way around Boston. So again, sort of at a nominal cost, they're paying maybe group tickets to get into, whether it's a show, entertainment, the museums, maybe helping us out a little bit with gas, or, but really not much, because we do have that funded generally. And then they get into Boston, dropped off at the door, picked up when it's over, and home. So hopefully we can expand that, do some things in the evening if it's of interest, or at least some of the day trips. So those are some of the things that I think, again, if we look at the summary and recommendations, I just underlined, again, this is in the report, so many of you may have gone online and read that already. If you want to borrow a hard copy, you can do that. But I won't belabor too much of it, but the paragraph, I guess I don't want to bring you through everything. The fourth paragraph down on the first page, connecting older adults to services. I mean, really, it's activities, it's an increase in events, it's an increase in information, it's an increase in assistance, but we hope to do that. Connect adults to services and supports, offering opportunities for socialization and engagement. Also, transportation, of course, does come up several times. It comes up here. And as Dr. Price mentioned, I mean, we are doing it. In fact, we're meeting the ceiling of what we have for budget, which is $100,000. It's a good-sized budget that we get from GAPTA that does support driver salaries, transportation coordinator salaries. It's not just the actual trip to and from out-of-town medical appointments, but we are hitting the ceiling. We are using that money completely. We have a little bit of a supplement through Social Elder Services, and it's another Title III grant. So it's a little money. It's not. So she does end up having two ways to go sometimes, both of which provide for the out-of-town medical. But just saying, this other addition for the public, for the community, is great, and it's what a lot of people ask for in the needs assessment. Page 2. Mentions an additional barrier to utilization of services for the Council on Aging here is lack of knowledge about what is available or how to access. So that, again, just going back to my goals, it is goal number 2. Communication is always a challenge.
Oh, okay.
You know, you're continually, certainly trying to reach the public, and we know that now it almost becomes more of a challenge because we have to reach the public in multiple ways. But we want to, naturally, so the time I spend on the newsletter, getting the mailing out, but in addition, posting the newsletter online, getting it into the Mariner, and granted, maybe we should be wider spread, maybe we need to go to the Ledger. Of course, there's other online, for the town website. The town website is great. I will say also for the newsletter, the liturgical publications posts it on this online site called Seek and Find. You can actually, if you go on there, ask for an email to be delivered to you when it's ready. So actually you get an alert. So things like that do make it easier, and I do mention that on the back page of the newsletter, just for the record. But again, that's still something we've talked about on the goal. It just talks about, and I know people here have offered. We just maybe need to sit down and determine some of the topics that we could write about in the Mariner, just again, to get more information out to the public. And if a board member would like to do that, that would be great. Housing, of course, is more advocacy, more education, and more information. So we can provide the education. We can do even a housing fair, offering an opportunity for people to come in, much like our health fair, and see what some of the assisted livings look like, or what some of the, granted maybe not right here in Scituate, but what some of the other developments are doing, what the trends are.
How did that go today, yesterday?
It did not, so we rescheduled that. We didn't get a big response, so that's why I thought maybe having more would be the way to go.
Variety,
Being
yeah.
sort of a captive audience for one, I don't know if it's always the way to go,
Right.
but it did sound interesting, so we thought we'd give it a try. And
Well, if they provided a free lunch, they would come.
no, they were providing breakfast.
I heard snacks on the recording, I think. But in the past, we had them come in with various assisted
It's hard to
living
find the right
facilities,
word.
and they'd bring their lunch, they'd bring a full-fledged lunch, you know, from, they signed up.
Actually, we could have done that, like I said, turned the lunch down. So again, of course, outreach is doing fabulously with what they do, and that's a lot of what was requested, is just more information for what resources are available to assist the different concerns, high risk or vulnerable or socially isolated seniors, certainly. I guess actually, if you go all the way to page 3, which have the bullet points there, you know, obviously planning for substantial growth is space. For the most part, it is space, because we're planning, and of course, we just need space. Leveraging existing services and programs. So we are doing this now and want to continue to do this through both, as I mentioned, whether it's partnering with the recreation department for better exposure, or more of a number of participants. The library, of course, well, that'll be tougher, but in fact, they're going to need even to go outside of their space as they relocate to the Harbor Community Building. So we will be partnering and helping them out as much as maybe working with them. The health department as well. We had an intern for the health department, has written a brochure and is going to provide some information in the next month, in May, about Lyme disease and just different concerns that we now have, of course, that we need more information about. So they offered that to us, and that was great. Again, we talked about GATRA coming in for the transportation, which was great that that's what came out of this survey, that it wasn't just the senior specific concerns, but community concerns. And that came up again, I think, with the walkability and the livability. They're great words, and I think when we partner with community organizations, not just us and what we can do here, but how to branch out, how to connect our senior population with what's going on in the community, but also where we can help and provide some support too. That's what we'd like to do. Again, recognize as a significant priority the need to expand knowledge of existing council on aging programs. So that did come up a second time in the report. Caregiving again comes up. One of the things I guess I would mention, and there's a lot of support and there's a lot of need, I think, as we probably all even know, for more respite opportunities for caregivers as well. So the idea of a social day program was put out or put forth in the survey. The results were great. A lot of people responded that they would like to see that. So that is something that would be great. There is a model that we would like to use, but that does take going out and finding grants and doing some fundraising to be able to support it. Obviously, long-term, wherever we are relocated, we would love the space to be able to do that. And I think it's nice to have it connected with the senior center. Oftentimes, it's the spouse of someone who would like to attend some things as well. It's very nice just for the interaction in general and the stimulation when you are dealing with people, even if it's early stage Alzheimer's, they are still interested in what the programs can provide them, and sometimes they're just doing it more as a group. But that would be something long range that, again, planning, volunteers, funding.
A lot of work.
A lot of work, but, and I know I've talked
Great
about it
result.
before, but, yeah, and it can evolve, it could be a phased-in approach to a little at a time, which I've seen work. Anyway, you can take a look at that, but again, just the underlining, just underscores some of the ways that I know it addresses what we need to do and also what we are doing. The last paragraph, of course, develop a senior center facility that reflects the strong support for COA activities and programs.
Pretty good.
You know, that's what we're looking for, multi-purpose, multiple activities to occur simultaneously. Private spaces, parking and accessibility. But again, you know, we have a wish list, we'll have a wish list, and a lot of
Well,
things
it's
that
a
we'd be
beginning.
looking for, of course, anyway.
It's a beginning.
I'm gonna let the board members know that, when I do the April minutes, I'm just gonna say, check the report from Linda. Otherwise, my minutes will be 8
Right.
pages long
Right.
instead of 4.
Sorry.
We can handle that.
I'm just letting,
I'm done, but I don't know if anybody has, you know, any thoughts or questions or input, because very
Oh.
comprehensive, that would be fine.
I just want to ask about the men's senior breakfast that did not happen. You know, some of the comments were, I think, unnecessary, some of them I think were legitimate. We have not-
What
we have
was
not-
legitimate?
We have not responded to those, to that.
Why would I, I'm sorry. I saw something about where was the COA apology, but of course the apology was made directly to the men that it affected, and why would they even think I was on Scituate Monthly and would have seen the criticism when, again, it was erroneous. It was not it was not an uninformed cancellation, it was not a cancellation, it was a mix-up
Yeah.
that happened on the other end. And
But they didn't know that.
well, exactly.
So I think a clarification should be put on that Facebook page, because there are over 3,000 people on that Facebook page. And I don't think we can afford to have people thinking that the COA doesn't have an answer to that. And I think we can, either, if you want to formulate one, or I'll formulate one, but I think a response, should be put on that page, just saying, and I already said that, I'm sorry that happened, I'll find out what went on, and now that I know what went on, if you want to put something on, great. If you want me to put something on, that's okay too. I think it should be responded to.
Well, that's your opinion. I don't, but I will if that's the feeling that more people have. I think I just did clarify it right here.
I'm not looking to have it be my opinion, I want to have it be the opinion of the committee, of the COA. Do people think we should respond to it or not?
Absolutely.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see
I
it.
I didn't see it either.
I didn't
There's
see
the
it,
idea
so I
that it
can't-
was there.
It's comment, it's just a line.
Sometimes
I have an ambivalent attitude that.
You give them.
Take the high road and ignore it.
Exactly. I think that Facebook is a separate entity, it's a social network.
That's right.
And I think, I understand, I just got on Facebook and I don't know what the heck I'm doing, to be honest. But I know that I didn't even know it reached 2,000 people, the Scituate Monthly. But I'm I sort of, like, I'm sitting on the fence here, because Facebook is a separate social network. But on the other side of the fence is the fact that eventually, when we do want to get into fundraising, or not even eventually, how we're trying to present a positive image right now of the senior center. And
Well, that's true.
I'm sort of betwixt and between.
I would also mention one of the other
You just
reasons.
want to correct a misunderstanding.
Yeah, but so maybe coming from Dr. Price, rather than you as the director, because you,
Well, I'm directly involved, but at the same time, I don't want to throw someone else under the bus and have to explain
No,
it. It was not actually anything that we had done, but I don't feel the need to mention that someone else may have made a
well, you
mistake.
don't have to name any
No, no, we didn't do
names
that.
and throw someone under the bus. You don't have to name a name.
I mean, if we're looking to reach out to people and organizations, which is what you've been talking about for the last 40 minutes, that Facebook Monthly is a group.
Yep.
And we're gonna be looking for a lot of those people for support. And I don't think we have to get into excuse my language, a peeing contest, but, just let them know that we're sorry, it happened. It was out of our control. We will make every endeavor to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's all it is,
Period.
people.
Right.
That's all it has to be, period.
That's
Well, I guess it-
Doesn't have to be a long, lengthy explanation. I think it's, social media, whether you like it or you don't like it, is a factor in this day and age. And there are a lot of people who live by that little thing and spend lots of time on it. Some of them, are very misguided, but there are a lot of very intelligent people who participate in those films also. So, if it was 50 people, I would say, don't worry about it, but it's 3,000. 3,000 people.
And growing, I just joined.
That's a good
2001.
I love this misinformation. It had
Oh, yeah.
It had it that I got married in 2009. I mean, I had people call me, what do you mean? And there's a picture there. Well, somebody had a picture of my brother when he was here from Italy. And I didn't get married in 2009. Lunchtime was quantity sufficient.
So what's the consensus, so we can put that together?
Yes,
That's
that's
fine.
direct.
Are we gonna
concise,
vote?
direct.
No.
I mean, I
Would you,
think,
Linda?
I'll be happy.
Put something, okay, great, thank you.
I think it's the same way you write anything that, a general, no names,
Yeah.
just,
Was it, excuse me, was it signed? Was
Well,
I
it
it-
think there were several
Yes.
comments.
Because I worry about, perpetuating stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then it
Absolutely.
becomes a back and.
It's like,
Well, I tried to
it's back and forth.
You don't have
Oh, no,
you don't have a
that's
social media coordinator here. And so it's time, it's resources, and it's social media, it's not council on aging
I
business.
agree. And it was,
So if you're gonna respond, I would say short, sweet, professional, and
Direct.
yeah, be
One
done.
time only
Take the
and
high
no
road.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't comment because I haven't seen it, but
You too.
we don't want to get into a
No,
back and forth.
no.
No.
Right, so.
Okay, great. Okay, moving on. Are you done? Okay. Since we don't have a selectman liaison, but I know we have an elder services liaison here. Joan?
The South Shore Elderly Service meeting was Tuesday, April 7th. And main thing is they continue to grow. And in fact, there was area right next door to them for rent, and so they have made much larger space, which they're moving in, they showed it to us. So they're moving into the new space shortly. And so they're very happy with that. And during the snow emergencies and everything was handled very well, so they were happy with that. June 22nd, they'll have more information, but that's going to be the walkathon they do every year, and that's going to be at South Shore Plaza. So there'll be more coming out in that. And Sandra, the director, went to a conference in San Diego on social media and marketing, and she was one of the only ones from that type of agency. But there were 2,000 people at the conference.
Wow.
And she picked up talking about media. South Shore Elder Services on everything, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. And they had picked up 1 million followers due to all her conversations.
South Shore Elders picked up 1 million followers?
Yep.
Holy moly.
They've had different conferences, and they're hooked into Alaska, all
It's
over.
amazing.
And, and she came with a feeling that the South Shore LD Services here is way ahead of a lot of the other groups. They're very advanced. And she received a lot of good information. She was really was impressed and grateful, and she was glad that she went. The two big motions that were made by the board was they approved an increase to Greater Boston Home Health Companion Services. They were getting $16 an hour, now they're getting $18. They also approved a contract with the Welch Healthcare and Retirement Group for supportive home care aides. They provide supportive home care aides, which is really increasing. There's more requests for that at home, especially with the disabled under the age of 60.
Will it be covered by Medicare?
Medicare or Medicaid,
Either one.
and it goes, you know, the Medicaid, you know, goes by income.
It's Mass
Yeah.
Health
Mass
pays
Health.
for it.
That's great.
So Welch is funding a training program?
No, they provide the aids.
Find that
Oh,
out.
the
No,
aids.
they're
They provide
providing
the aids.
the aids,
The Welsh Home Health?
yeah, into homes, which
Okay.
is being hired by South Shore Elder Services.
It's a new division for Welsh Healthcare.
Okay.
Oh, I thought they were in that already, that
Yeah.
they had a home health agency. I'm just
Well,
curious.
they're working along with South Shore Elder Services. So they're doing that.
Okay.
Well, Mass Health always covered home aids anyway.
And then you'll be noticing bulletin boards, these are put on by Mass Health. So if you notice these, one kid gives me the care I had and much more. There's several, there's different languages, so you might be seeing these coming up, it's a new thing.
Billboards?
Yeah.
Road signs?
Uh-huh. There's several, they're gonna have in different language and different types. A lot of this is to do with, because there's a lot of emphasis now on the disabled that are under 60 years.
Yeah.
See, this used to just cover the elderly, now it doesn't anymore, so that's a big, you know, that's a big growing thing with this.
It's interesting, it's a big growing thing here, too. We get a
Is
lot
it?
of calls
Yeah,
for
yeah,
transportation.
yeah. So you can be proud of them, they're very great, they're a great director, and they're really doing
Oh,
what
absolutely.
other groups aren't doing.
I like what it's doing.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
I'd like to suggest only, I can't walk as much as I used to be able to walk, but perhaps we could get a team together, not just board members, but a team of Scituate seniors, a lot of walkers I know that outwalk me now. Maybe we could get a little team together and participate in that walkathon, you know, representing Scituate on June 22nd. It's just a thought, you know.
Yeah, there'd be more material coming out.
Yeah.
There will be, and also as due to contact, if you do participate.
Right.
The next item, Linda can probably, I'm sure help if she probably knows more about it tonight. The Board of Selectmen, I believe, 2 weeks ago, decided to form, it's called the Town of Scituate Adaptive Building Reuse Committee, to look at the possible uses of gates, town hall, police station, fire station, this building. And they have established it as a 7-person board. And the composition of the board is,
Well, actually, I think they just had an article in the Mariner maybe today,
Oh, uh-huh.
publicizing it and also looking to the community for those who might fit the
Mhm.
profile of the people that they're
Yeah.
interested in inviting onto.
yeah, says that they're looking for people with prior or current backgrounds in construction, architecture, real estate, land use and development, engineering, or other relevant experience. And have knowledge and skills to assist the board in evaluating a recommendation for future uses of gates, police station, town hall, and senior center. They have made one seat available for a member of our board. What's that? Yeah, you know, we kind of clamored to
Can we all go?
make sure, yeah, how many of us are there? More than 7.
Actually, in reading it, sounds like it's gonna be a lot of work for the committee.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds very similar to the work commitment of the needs assessment, the needs assessment master plan. When Karen Pritchard came to speak to us, her committee, it's going to require a lot of,
I'm not gonna go through the whole charge, the 2 pages of charges and
I know, I should have
stuff,
said that earlier.
so. You know, I think they're looking to get it up and running probably within the coming month. And I'm pleased that they have offered that we would have 1 seat on that committee. So we need to decide who that person will be. And, I would just mention that I would be happy to be considered for that if other people think that that's appropriate. If you don't think it is, other people on the board would probably serve that position well.
Actually, I think that would be very appropriate.
I definitely,
I would nominate.
I nominate Dr. Price. I nominated you for chairman, I may as well nominate you for this.
I remember
That's
that,
a-
I
that's a-
remember that, Dale. And I'll never forget you for it either.
Oh, no, I'm very proud of that. I just don't want to, is there anyone
I'll
else
second it.
that's interested though?
No,
John?
no.
Would you?
I'm not sure what the time commitment is,
Get a
so,
motion on the floor.
Gordon, do you think you can do it? Go.
The member of the committee shall serve for 1-year term, shall meet at designated dates, times, locations that are convenient to its members, as well as promoting strong public participation.
It's a good thing you and Mrs. Price work together during the day. She's never going to see you for
As
the
long as
next
it's not
year
a
or two.
Thursday or a Friday during the day, I'm pretty much available, so I suspect these will mostly be evening sessions. So yeah, I think I have the time to do them. I'm giving up a couple of my responsibilities as we speak. I've been on the board of registration for optometry for 6 years, and as soon as the new governor sees fit to appoint some new people, I'm off. And, I'm also trying to get out of my commitment as the president of the condo association too, so. Yeah, I guess maybe I
You're looking for something to do.
stay out of my wife's way.
Okay, I'll go back to my original
We have a motion on the
nomination.
floor. It's already been motioned, she seconded.
Oh, okay, but I interrupted by saying, you know, did John, you know, we don't want to, because you had once, at the last meeting, you had expressed interest in being on the subcommittee for space, you know, the final frontier committee. But okay, so
Yeah,
Dr. Price.
Before we take the vote, I'd like to, if JD, would like to kind of be
Sub.
in reserve.
Sure.
So if there happens to be a.
that's a
I
good
think
idea.
And I think it would be important that we have a representation, at every session. So if it happens to be at the time
You have a
that I can't
conflict,
make
yep.
it, if JD would be willing to, could be a fill,
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah,
idea.
support that, I think we would be well served to do that. So, all those in favor? Okay. Linda needs to send a letter to the board or. what
Somebody,
you do.
yeah.
If you can do that. Okay. Linda and I had spoken a few times from the last meeting to now, and we thought it would be appropriate to have someone from the Friends come and kind of fill us in on their state of affairs and their ideas in terms of how they can best work with the COA. And it's a little bit different relationship than what maybe other towns have had because of how it's legally formulated. And I know that they just recently got their 501 C3 or whatever it's called. So, Kim or whoever wants to,
Well, I had
bring us up to
originally-
speed.
No, you
should speak to that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The Friends, I've written this out, the Friends of Scituate have received their nonprofit. We are now officially an organization with the status of being tax exempt. It's 501 C3. And the Friends want to work with the council board and in raising funds for a new senior center that will accommodate all seniors and future programs, future seniors and future programs, with the idea, once we get that building, then we would like to be able to put that money, raise funds, continue to raise funds, and put them towards programs that would be in the new senior center. That is, our purpose is first to help raise the money for a new senior center, and then from there, help with money for programs, to hire people in to talk and do programs. But first, we want to get the center. Then once we get the center, then we can further promote raising funds, and we will be, next week, we'll have our meeting, and we will be talking about ways to raise funds. Okay.
Involving veterans in those too.
Oh, and that is the other thing that, having gone to Weymouth and everything, we need to think about including, and Linda agrees with this, the veterans in whatever senior center we go into. They get grants, and if they had a section, like they do in Weymouth, that they have only a small room, but an area bigger than their cubbyhole at the town hall. And up there, they found they use outreach, they communicate back and work back and forth. So if we could get the veterans involved in this with us, it would be a good idea. But that's, what we're working on now is getting ready to set up fundraising for a new building. That's been agreed by the board that has gotten together.
What
that's great.
What day of the week?
We're
or day
meeting
of the
next
month do you
Tuesday,
generally meet?
next Tuesday at 11 o'clock at the Methodist Church. Anybody is invited that wants to come.
It's always the second Tuesday of each month.
It's always the
correct?
second Tuesday of the month. We right now are working on 11 o'clock. If we find we need to change it, one of our offices sometimes can't be there. So we're hoping to work it in so that she can be involved.
Well, I mean, that is the middle of our day, and often when we schedule, not just activities, that's actually a time when we schedule events.
Well,
because
the
that
only
happens
time
to be
we
our-
haven't scheduled them at that time is we did have a board meeting, and the Historical Society has let us use the Cudworth House. And when we have our board meetings, which is the original group of friends that formed, and we have those usually at 4 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, and we do have the use of the Cudworth House. They have a conference room, and then our board meetings, we are now having board meetings every once in a while too, because there are things that need to be discussed before they come before our friends' full
Well,
meeting.
it's only once a month, and there's always a conflict, there's the lunches on Thursday, I mean, it's only once a month, and, you know, if you could, if the SCOA and the friends could
But
coordinate.
personally, for me, Tuesdays and Fridays are my only available day, because I volunteer for the Meals on Wheels. I volunteer joined a knitting group up at the church, and I've got a lot of other things that go on Wednesday and Thursday. Of course, I'm committed to the church, so that was one of the things. But I can work around my schedule for afternoons, but right now the board has agreed to 11 o'clock.
Okay.
Well, I always enjoy going to the meetings, so I'd be very glad to go.
Oh, great. Super.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really, you know, it's just my opinion, it's only once a month, it's, you know, it'd be different if it was a weekly event, you know,
And we
anyway.
took a vacation in the winter.
Well, I just have one question. Is this
Yeah.
for a freestanding building?
Yeah, what
I'm going to say it this
constitutes
way.
new?
Whatever the board, the council board decides, we will work with them to raise the funds for whatever is decided. Whatever they decide that they want to work towards, we will work with them on
Awesome.
that.
Okay, I didn't understand. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Good.
That's good.
Our purpose is to work with the board and help them get what you people decide is you need.
Sounds great.
Nice.
Thank you.
Good.
Just want to bring up again, this discussion of subcommittee. I think I sent an email to all of you about what my thoughts were, and I have some extras here if anyone needs them. You know, I'm glad that the Board of Selectmen have seen fit to form this, use committee that they call, I don't think it eliminates the need for what we've talked about, because I still think the more information we can gather ourselves and then present it to that board, to the Board of Selectmen, to the town administrator at some point, we feel it's comprehensive enough that, the more information that can be garnered to move this issue forward with both programming and physical facility, to me is a worthwhile venture. So, I think Linda had some concerns about whether we could have by charter or by regulations subcommittees, but have you looked
There's
into
no
that at all?
stipulation about that, and there's very
Right.
little in the bylaws
Yeah.
for us,
Yeah.
as long as we post the meetings of any subcommittee that's voted on by the board.
Plus, I was watching the last times, the previous selectmen's meeting, this week's isn't on Channel 9 yet, and they were gonna break down into subcommittees for one of their, I'm not sure if it was this one, I can't
Oh, they are,
actually recall,
yeah.
but they were gonna use the town manager suggested using subcommittees for,
Yeah, that was this building reuse committee. It's the Patriot Ledger article, and I wrote in front of me, specifically states that John Danby talking about, there would probably be need to form subcommittees.
Right,
So
okay,
obviously,
yeah,
subcommittees are
that's
not
exactly
denied by right, by the charter, so I think we're in our legitimate right to do that. If we have to post the meetings, if JD and I are gonna go look at a facility somewhere, if that needs to be posted, fine, I don't have a problem with that. If the people that wanna work with Linda on the programming, I think Linda's done a great amount of work to already put together what, at least I had in my mind, in terms of programming. If you need to gather with Linda and that needs to be posted, fine, we can post it. We don't wanna do anything that's gonna rub anybody the wrong way, so. But I just think that it still behooves us to move forward with what we need to do, because, I don't want to be sitting here a year from now, or a year and a half from now saying, gee, I wish we had really looked into that, or we had talked to this person, or talked to that person. I mean, there's lots of people we can talk to, and there's lots of people this committee will talk to, all of the town committee will talk to. And the fact that, we're working, we can work jointly together with them. I'm not looking to be antagonistic to them or, do anything that's going to undermine them. But, this is we're going to have one chance at building a senior center in this town. That's going to be what we need and what we want. And if we don't seize that opportunity and work toward that, everyone work jointly toward it, then it's never going to happen. It'll be like 2005 all over again. And I don't think any of us want that to happen. So I think we can be productive with our committee, and we'll keep people at town hall aware of what's going on. And Linda will be aware of everything that's going on. I think we need to move ahead with that. I know I've already heard from someone who sits on the board that, why aren't we doing more about moving ourselves into the forefront to make sure this happens? Well, I guess we have at least one person on the board who thinks that that's a good thing to do. So hopefully we can convince the other four, or how many there are, that we're not looking to undermine anyone. That's not my intention, and it's not anyone's intention here. It's just that there's a lot of work to be done. So,
but I suggest we start the work. I mean, we brought up the subcommittees, I think, 2 or 3 meetings ago, and granted, some of the members were in Florida or away from Scituate. But, I mean, now, we've talked about them, let's finalize who's gonna be on which one, and let's get them moving, I mean, that's just in general, I mean, yeah.
you can do it right here and right now if you want. I mean, I've already, JD and I already spoke that, if we're talking still the kind of two subcommittees of physical plant and programming, that, and my biggest interest is in the physical plant. I think I have more knowledge about that than what, Linda would, what I could offer to Linda in that way. So JD still wants to do that, then that should be our committee, and if any of the ladies want to be on the physical plant facility, be my guest too. If you want to work with Linda on the programming. I think Linda's done a great job doing a lot of that groundwork. It's, but there's more to be done.
I'll work on programs.
I'll work on program, already on programs.
Okay, and I'll let you all figure out who wants to
Okay,
chair that
well,
subcommittee.
I first suggested that I'd work on programs, so if there are so many, well, I'll work on the space, the buildings.
We should have one.
Great. I'd love to have you.
But I won't drive, you guys have to drive.
That's fine. All right, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to have, a monthly reporting from those two committees in terms of what they've done, where we're at. I think a lot of the goals or objectives have already been outlined in the survey and what Linda's done and presented to us tonight. So I think we're really getting started on the meat and potatoes. I think a lot of the framework of what we're looking to try to achieve has already been done. I'd like to be able to sit down here a month from now and say, okay, this is what we've done, this is what we need to do, and just keep moving forward. Everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Definitely.
Great.
Do we have to make a motion or anything on that?
I don't think so. No.
And of course, when we get to new business, we'll be hearing from two seniors,
Yeah.
hearing their viewpoints.
Okay, so old business, I guess that was a combination of both, I guess.
Yep.
Any other old previous business that we need to discuss?
Well, I was gonna bring up Wi-Fi under old business, but
Okay.
it's been resolved,
Yeah,
so.
that's great. Super. Okay, in the new business, the intention there, or what I had in mind, was that we would have a couple people who had voiced, interest to kind of address us a little bit with their views as seniors in town and their participation here. So I know Pat wanted to say a few things. Is it Betty? And Betty's here.
Yeah, Betty's
also.
here.
So
Mhm.
whoever wants to go first, go ahead. You might guess.
Go first.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very brief.
Okay.
I think my main interest in programming for our new senior center, I think it would just be the most wonderful idea to have a day program for our memory impaired seniors, because they're the one part of our population that we really don't reach out to, because they're usually in their homes with other people. And if we were in a new center, if we had a daycare for our memory impaired, many of the people with Alzheimer's, their caretakers are also seniors, so we'd also be reaching out to those seniors. And it's also very possible that it would be a great opportunity for volunteering for our seniors. So it would just be a terrific win situation, and I think it would just make Scituate look so great that we included that in our plans for a senior center. And the only other programming that I just would like, and also has to do with the brain, only keeping our brains healthy. I just like to see a whole lot more games. I like to see bridge and poker and Scrabble, and I think it would be great because it's wonderful for our brains to play games, but also when you're getting together to play games, and the socialization is terrific.
Yeah.
And I would love to see that added to our
That was just
program.
pointed out yesterday with the tea, how much interaction there was at
Yeah.
the tree because everybody was playing a game.
Yes, yes.
Everybody got into it.
And it's
And it was a
wonderful
lot
for
of
you-
fun.
It's wonderful for your brain.
That's
right.
Yeah.
And I attended that also, and you can't help but chit chat with the people that you're with, if you don't
Exactly.
know them that well.
Exactly.
Not only the
And
kids, but
it's
the other
totally
seniors.
inexpensive, it doesn't
Right.
cost anything.
Right.
And I think it would just be a great addition to our center. Many different types of,
Yeah.
I happen to like bridge, but a lot of other people like other things. So that's really all I had to bring up.
Just to comment, I think that's a wonderful thing, Pat. And Linda's it, I know when they get me confused now. Duxbury or Marshfield had a program.
The social day program.
Yes, Duxbury, right, which I.
Oh, they do have one?
Yeah, I would actually
With their
like to-
senior center?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. it was ongoing the day that I went there. Karen? Who's it? Karen took me into the room and was with a couple of people. It was really,
They
I was
started
very
with,
impressed.
they started one day, went to 2 days for the same group, then started with a third day for a second group, went to 4 days, alternating, and now they just started a fifth day. But a lot is grant funded.
Well,
That was-
but also that is
And also
a pay
privately funded, I
proposition
should say.
also, I mean,
Yes,
the
it is.
the families pay.
I mean,
too.
donations.
That was
And
my first job
families
when I
do
got
pay.
out of graduate school. I opened an adult day out for the
Really?
Baptist home in
Oh, I
Massachusetts,
see.
in Kingston.
Okay.
And it expanded because it was a well facility that catered meals to the people there. But we expanded out into the community. And I talked to anybody that would listen to get it up and going, and I moved on.
There we go.
Well, you can help get us going.
Well, I think also
A lot of money.
would help with
Funding,
the
donation.
selling the idea of a senior center, because I think the town would support that.
Absolutely.
It was a
I
great
think there's a
idea.
tremendous need that nobody's
Oh, yes.
aware of,
Mhm.
because we haven't even touched it.
Well, I was just gonna say, I wonder exactly how many caregivers there are in this town. You know,
I bet there's
I don't
plenty
think
of
that,
them.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's no figures for that.
And I bet at least 75% of them are seniors,
Right.
maybe younger, younger than me probably, but still seniors.
Betty, we're eagerly awaiting your,
Oh, yeah, I'm just thinking to add to what he said.
Betty, can you
There
come
must be
over
a-
here, because the camera can't see you. Well,
Do you want,
can you come sit
Come on,
beside
we
Pat?
want you
do
on
I have to
stage.
stand?
No, you can sit. No, no, you can sit
There
right
must be,
there.
there must be a way for us to find out how many caregivers there are in this town. It might be a very interesting statistic.
Could be very
Right.
sure.
I'm a senior that takes advantage of some of the programs. Not as many as a lot of seniors. But I've done a few things, and I haven't participated in as many things as I would if we had an adequate senior center. And I'm sure that's true of others of us here, and I think if we had an adequate senior center, people would be coming out of the cracks. I participated in badminton and pickleball, a really nice knitting group. I took a yoga class in this room with people walking in and out and the phone ringing and 15 women trying to do downward dog. And it wasn't pretty. And it was the end of yoga, as far as I'm concerned.
It's great now.
I went to Portugal with a group from a senior center in Medway, and it was one wonderful senior center, and it was just great. I've taken courses in Marshfield, and Marshfield is wonderful and so welcoming, and the rooms were private, and which brings me to why I'm a member of the Friends of Scituate Seniors, and I'm a member because I'm really dedicated to us having a freestanding senior center. I really believe that's what we need. We need adequate space, we need adequate parking. Even in Marshfield, there were days when the parking was tight, it was crowded. We need to be able to seat 150 people for a luncheon or entertainment or
Speakers.
a speaker, exactly. And we need outdoor space, absolutely. Something that I
Outdoor
heard,
space.
we do need outdoor
Yes.
space.
Yeah.
In Rockland, they have a big patio in the back, and they have grills, and the men's group comes out and barbecues. Okay, the interesting thing that I discovered today was that in Rockland, they serve 25 to 30 lunches daily in their center. This is separate from Meals on Wheels. During January, February, and March this year in Rockland, they served 1,185 lunches in their center. They can seat 150 people if they have to. Not that they do it on a regular basis, but they served 1,185 lunches in the first 3 months, and that's even with storm closures. So that's significant. Parking and accessibility are really important. And I feel really strongly that we need a place for people to congregate and to socialize. We need a place of our own. We don't need a shared facility. That's my impression.
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
committees get kind of inflated, and, you know, I think we need to be able to have a forum where, maybe not necessarily every month, but if we need to, we'll do it. So I think that's right. You know, I think we need to hear from the senior population out there in terms of what their views are, in terms of where we're going, if we're going in the right direction.
Can I say something that I meant to add? And that is that we got all this great information from our survey, which was really wonderful. Everyone seems to have an opinion of what the seniors need, and I just like to encourage people to ask a senior. I think if we were going to sell T-shirts, they should say "Ask a Senior" because it's important. Most of us know what we want. We're pretty sure what we need, and we know what we want.
That's a great idea for the.
We need to be asking seniors. Yeah.
And also ask a senior anything. You'll be surprised what things you'll learn. You know?
We know
I'm
a lot.
serious, exactly, I'm serious. Seniors know more than people give them credit for.
On that note, well, unless the board has something else.
I make a motion, the meeting be adjourned, which I want to use for.
So it's
Second.
motion.
All
So
in
it's
favor?
7:20?
Aye.
All right.
What time is it?